Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening to you all. Welcome to, first of all, happy Women's Day to all our fabulous women who are working so hard in various capacity, making change, taking care of children. If you're a teacher, supporting our learners with difficulty. So happy Women's Day to everyone that is here. And if you're a man, it's also happy Women's Day to your wife or your partner or your girlfriend or however. So happy Women's Day. Today, I'm so excited because we are going to hang out with two of my favorite people. The first of all is Dr. Abe from Ethiopia. And Dr. Abe today is going to take us on the topic of understanding educational policies. So today we're going to go to overview of the national and regional educational policies, identifying opportunities for the policy advocacy. What does that mean? How do you even look at policy overview and be able to spot where there are gaps in? So that's what Dr. Abe is going to take us through today. I would like him to introduce himself so that you are able to get a much content of who this person is. He's really a fabulous man. He's part of a book that we both co-authored, an international dyslexia book. I'll post the link later here, and whoever is interested, you can check it out. But he's also the founding director for FANA. It's an Ethiopia Center for Language and Learning Disability Support. And so I'll put also their website in the chat later for you to look at the organization that he works with. And I also know he works at a university as well, but I wouldn't want to take the introduction from him. I want him to introduce himself. So Dr. Abe, welcome to our session for today. You are meeting for the very first time some of the individuals who are on their journey to become an advocate to support the work that we do, that you and I both are passionate about. So in this cohort, which is a pilot cohort, we have 90 individuals from 32 African countries who are working hard, and after 6 weeks training, those who are putting in the effort will graduate to become part of the Africa Dyslexia Advocates Fellows, and will officially acknowledge them and work with them. And you already know the vision behind this journey. And so for the people in Ethiopia, definitely will be working with you, and the people in whichever location they are, that we have some of our sisters and brothers who are doing something there already. We're going to link them to those people who are still working together. And this is to support our agenda of coming together as African organizations that are working on dyslexia and related learning challenge. So today, I introduce them to you. You can take over, Dr. Abe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rosie. Can I step in? Thank you so much. Thanks for the generous introduction as well. I'm not sure whether I have to add anything to what you've already said about my profile. My name is Abebayo Makonnen. You can call me Abe for short. And I'm an associate professor of clinical linguistics, specializing in language and communication, learning and communication disabilities. And I'm also a founding manager, managing director of an NGO called FANA in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. So I'm part of this initiative, both through my academic interest, as well as through my community engagement and community work. So today I'm here to share with you some of the issues around engaging with policymakers and also, understanding policies, engaging with them, um, exploring policies of education and policies of dyslexia, in particular in the African context. We'll try to touch on quite broad issues, and then we'll zoom into the African context. Shall I share the PowerPoint, Rosie? Is that okay?
Yes.
Can everyone see the PowerPoint?
I can see it.
So yeah, as you can see from the outline on the right side of the first slide.
Can we please have it in slideshow?
It's not on the slideshow. Okay, let's do it. Is it visible now?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about education agencies. We'll try to look or try to have an overview of policies in Africa, and we'll also look at how we create opportunities for advocacy, and we'll also discuss a little bit about effective communication strategies to be able to advocate better for individuals having dyslexia. And we also talk about how we do in, by doing all these, we ultimately want to have a systemic change in our communities, in our countries. So I'll also be talking about some strategies which are proven to be effective in bringing about systemic change while we do advocacy work. Finally, I will talk about bureaucratic, how to navigate through challenging bureaucratic structures. So basically, these are the major. I hope I'll try to cover all these issues in the time provided. So my talk has two sessions. The first one discusses about understanding educational policies. The next one covers about engagement, etc. So engaging with education agencies. And when you look at this title, you might be asking, why do we want to engage with these agencies? And who are these agencies? And if we are convinced that we need to engage with these agencies and we know who these agencies are, we would like to know the most effective strategies of engaging with them. So I'll try to talk about the first component of this presentation around the three questions. So taking the first question, why do we want to engage with educational agencies? We know that we want to engage with them because we know we would like to see our education system cater better for all children, for all individuals, not least for those with learning and learning differences such as dyslexia. So that is ultimately what we want. We want this engagement to bring about opportunity for us to enhance dyslexia services, leading to better support and outcomes for individuals with dyslexia. But in particular, we would like to engage with policymakers. We would like to engage with these agencies because we know that these agencies do have the power for policy change, improvements, and they can also help us in advocating for the rights of individuals with dyslexia. We know that they are in a better position to do that. We also know that they have in control of the resources that would enable us to do the advocacy, support for provision, etc. We also know that these agencies do have sometimes expertise and resources. So we might benefit from expertise they have, or the kind of connections they already have because they are on top of our society, because they are leading governments, they are decision makers, etc. We also believe that through these kind of engagement, we would be able to develop, the capacity of our agents, fellows, etc. So we also know that these agencies, for instance, Ministry of Education or Department of Education, or these policymakers do have a first-hand access to data. They know how the school system operates, how many children are in the school, how many are struggling with literacy, etc. So they do have first-hand access to data, and we want to engage with them to be able to tap into these resources. The second question is, who are these agencies anyway? Who are these agencies? These agencies, for instance, if you take the education sector, these agencies in general are organizations or entities or government bodies or any other relevant bodies in our community that are responsible for overseeing and administrating various types of or aspects of education. We are interested in dyslexia, and dyslexia is we're interested in dyslexia, particularly in the education system. So these people do give oversight. They are responsible for overseeing and administrating various aspects of the education system in our respective countries. So in terms of jurisdiction, in terms of area, for instance, these agencies might be situated or found at the local level or a regional, state level, or even at a national, international levels. So at a national level, for instance, many countries do have this ministry or department of education. At a regional or provincial state level, they also have education agencies, and these education agencies also do have structures in local education, local constituencies, areas. So we also have regional educational services, such as, for instance, in the African Union, we have what they call Commission for Education within the African Union. So these are also kind of agencies we are interested in, and we would like to have engagements with. So these agencies do play crucial roles in shaping our education policies, implementing our curriculums, and setting up standards, providing resources, and supporting the school systems. And they also make sure that everything is in place, and they ensure compliance and regulations. And the third question is, okay, now we know why we want to engage with these people, and we know mainly which agencies we would like to engage with. And now the question becomes, how best can we engage with these agencies? So engaging with policymakers in general effectively requires it requires a strategic approach that consider at least three main issues: their interest, the interests of these policymakers or agencies, the constraints they have, and the entire policy making or decision making process. We need to be familiar with their interest, the kind of constraints or challenge they have, and we also need to understand the decision making process, because sometimes we just go to some agencies and request for something without having had a very good understanding of how decision makings are done. How best can we do it then? So we can look at some basic strategies which are found in the literature, which are stated in the literature to be effective in engaging with these kind of policymakers and agencies. The first one is understanding the problem at hand. What kind of problem are we dealing with? It is dyslexia, and do we really understand dyslexia very well? I mean, do we see it from various perspectives? Because we are ultimately asking for a policy or resource, etc. So when we are asked about dyslexia, we need to know we need to really know the various dimensions of dyslexia. And if we would like a society to address issues, barriers around dyslexia, we need to know the barriers, the factors, the multifaceted factors that play in dyslexia service provision. So once we understand very well the problem, we will be able to describe the problem to agencies very well. So we need to understand our own issue, our own cause. We need to understand the existing policies around that cause, around dyslexia in our respective countries. What does, for instance, the education policy of my country say about dyslexia or learning difference, etc.? We need to understand the existing legislations, policies, guidelines, etc. We need also to appraise, review the existing documents, try to find the gap, the gap in the shared and the shared goals and priorities between our cause and the causes of the government or these agencies. We also need to understand, like I said earlier, the policy making, the decision making process. How is it done? How is it debated, or how is policy formulated, ratified, etc., in our respective countries? We also need to understand the fact that we also have to offer solutions. We don't just go to policymakers or these agencies with problems alone, because sometimes they just are, okay, you have described the problem, now I understand the problem. So what do you think would be the solution? If we are asked this kind of question, we need to be well prepared beforehand. When we approach policymakers and these agencies, we don't just go with problems, but also with evidence-based solutions. We need to tailor our messages and our proposals, our requests in a very concise and clear way, because these policymakers are important people. They don't have much time, and they might not understand the jargons, the technical details of, for instance, dyslexia. So we need to ensure that our communication needs to be clear, concise, and we also, of course, need to engage other stakeholders to support us, to back us up in our request or approach to agencies and policymakers. Of course, we need to follow up and stay engaged, because these people are very busy. You just share some information with them. They give you, they promise that they would do this or that, but the next day they are very busy with something urgent. So their priorities always change with with the dynamics of politics, economics, sociology, etc. So we need to follow up on our request, on our engagement. Of course, we need to be patient. I'm sure those of you who have
Hi, everyone. So let's give a few minutes and I'm sure he will be back. You know, our challenge on the continent already, but I would encourage that if you have any question or thought to share, you engage in the chat room whilst we wait for Dr. Abbey to come back to us and continue with us. But once again, for those who have joined us, and you're a woman, happy International Women's Day to you. We appreciate your efforts, everything you do. For you just even showing up here, you're a great woman, and we celebrate you. Much love to you too, Victoria. Thank you all for the wonderful messages. So something just came to my thought and I want to share in between was like, did you guys realize that we are like in the midpoint of the training where in few weeks we are ending the training? And I would say that this is the challenging moment in every aspect. Like when you are doing anything, the moment you get into the middle and it feels like, oh, when is this going to end? I can't wait to finish. This is where you need to push yourself because if you don't, you will drop off easily thinking that you are tired. But then when you get to the end, you will see the success and you're so happy. I've been there many times and I know a lot of people already tired. So I thought I would share that. If you have the same feeling, you can and you agree with what I'm saying, you can also share it, your thoughts in the comments. And maybe if you have some tips on how we can keep going, you could also share your thoughts for us. Oh, Medupe. Okay, great. All right, so I think we have waited a bit for Dr. Abe to come, but we have Madam Justina here. They are almost covering the same topic, but she was going to take you the group on the breakout session and doing like a group work. So since we have Dr. Abe having challenge with the internet, Justina will come in and just continue, not on the same slide, but almost the same on the same theme, and then it will keep us going until we see that Abe is here, and then we give it back to him so that we can use the time in the most useful way. So Justina, if you're ready, you can take over and share your screen. Oh, Dr. Abe is here. Awesome. Welcome back. Let me quickly check something. Yeah. Dr. Abe, you're muted.
Sorry about that. The connection is terrible today. I don't know. So sorry. Well, I was talking about being patient and persistent when we try to engage with the stakeholders. So that works. That is true for us as well. I'm so sorry.
No. You're good. We are used to this on the continent. So I don't know who will be angry for something like this.
Yeah, I mean, we live in Africa. This thing it's an ordeal for us. Yeah. Anyway, so I was talking about is it visible now?
It is visible all this while.
Can you see the slide?
Yeah.
Can you hear me as well?
Yes, I can hear you. I can see the slide.
So yeah, how best can excellent. So looking at dyslexia as or the barriers around dyslexia in a system thinking approach, because you know, solving the issues or addressing the barriers of dyslexia doesn't end with having a policy. It requires engagement with various sectors in the society. We need to address attitudes, awareness of our, you know, cultural, socio-cultural issues, institutional issues, legal issues, etc. So viewing dyslexia-related policies in Africa through a system thinking approach is very important. That is, we need to consider the interconnectedness of various factors such as education, socioeconomic situations, system, etc. So as dyslexia advocates, we all need to look at dyslexia from various perspectives. We need to address the barriers and the challenges coming from the government, from the education system, from the legal system, from societal, etc. So we know that nothing exists in isolation, and you know these factors are highly intertwined, and solving one doesn't solve the entire puzzle. So we need to address the challenge. We need to tackle the problems from various perspectives. So we need, like we said earlier, for us to establish a very good engagement with these agencies and policymakers, first we need to understand the landscape, the policies that we have. So when we bring this into our continent, Africa, we Africans are very diverse. Of course, we share lots, so much in common, but we are also diverse in our history, culture, politics, etc. So this means that our policies are also diverse because of our internal context, our local context, that because of the differences in contextual factors. Despite all these differences in culture, in policies, etc., uh, our focus, our educational policies revolve around common themes and challenges. And if you look at the literature, the studies conducted around education challenges in Africa, there are about 8, 9 common themes that you get. And these themes, topics,
Yes, I am sexy on the back. All right, all right, all right. Thank you all for your patience. We have Dr. Abe back. Dr. Abe, please take us straight away on a slideshow.
hi again. So I'm back. So when you try to explore the major, can you hear me now?
Yes, please, we can hear you.
So these are the recurrent topics, themes that we find when we try to research or explore the major issues uh, that are raised in relation to education policies in Africa. Access to education, many of the sub-Saharan Africans, even though we have managed to improve our education system, many of African countries still struggle to ensure access to basic education. We are also in problem with ensuring quality of education. So this is true especially for most of sub-Saharan Africa. You find quite a lot of research and um, proposals and work around curriculum development, language issues in instruction, mother tongue education, etc. You also find lots of conversation around teacher training and development in the African continent, technical and vocational education training, etc., and the need to enhance the capacity and quality of higher education and education financing, as well as inclusive education and ICT, etc. These are the most recurrent topics that we find when we search or when we explore the major issues that are going around in education policies related to Africa. With regards to dyslexia, again, like we said earlier, policies related to dyslexia, again, vary from country to country within Africa. But when you look at what kind of policies we have in Africa, these differences, the policies differ from one nation to the next, and these differences are due to the educational system, the resources we have, the awareness level in our respective nations. So some African countries do have specific policies addressing dyslexia, but others do have more generic kind of policies. For instance, in Ethiopia, we don't really have a specific policies targeting dyslexia, but we have policies around related to disability in general. And our policy.
Dr. Abe, your audio is gone off.
Approach.
Okay.
But when you look at the kind of policies and legislations and guidelines related to dyslexia in Africa, you see some sort of general trend and initiatives. And these trends and initiatives are
Hi, everyone. I think today the internet wants to test our patience. Please, let's exercise patience. We still have time. Let's exercise patience. This is what has come to mind. The topic that Dr. Abe is taking us through is quite important for us to understand. So if his internet doesn't permit us to have a good flow of the presentation, I would kindly request of him to record it and maybe send us the presentation later so that we can watch it later. But then he's back, so we will still manage. And then Dr. Abe, so this is what I'm thinking. Can you hear me? Dr. Abe, can you hear me? So this is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I can hear you.
We'll still manage to go
Yes.
on. We'll still manage to go on like this, but I feel like that the topic you are handling is quite important. And so what I'm thinking is even after this presentation, if it's possible, to have like a recording of it, like you record your presentation and then you send it to me and then we can share it later, because really the key points of this advocacy, it's all surrounded by this topic that you are handling. And so we'll still manage with the internet breakup, but I think we will need you to record it later as well for us to have a flow of it later. Thank you very much. You can continue.
Thank you very much. Let's hope that it would be less painful for every one of us. Okay, I'll try to rush a little bit to cover some of the most important slides I have. So when you look at the activities being carried out in Africa in relation to advocacy for dyslexics or individuals with dyslexia, most of the activities, the initiatives, the policy, the directives revolve around integrating dyslexia in their education policies and teacher training programs. And some of these countries are trying to ensure that every teacher graduating from teacher training institutions do have at least a basic understanding of learning differences, learning difficulties, dyslexia, etc. Some of them, they do have advocacy and awareness programs. Others do have resource development. They develop resources related to dyslexia support provision. So they dispatch to schools, parents, community centers, etc. And yet, still some other African countries do have collaboration with international organizations through NGO, through their government agencies. Legislation and legal protection. We have a number of countries which introduce or which pass laws related to dyslexia to protect the rights of individuals with dyslexia. Some other also have practical guidelines as to how dyslexia should be managed in various sectors of their community. So despite these improvements, despite these developments and progress, we still have a lot of challenges which still persist in various African countries. And these challenges are related to limited resources to be able to, perform various activities to enhance service provision or, services related to dyslexia. We also have challenges around inadequate training for educators, cultural barriers in various African countries due to lack of awareness, and that results in challenges with understanding and accepting dyslexia itself and accepting individuals with dyslexia. So we need to have continued advocacy, continued research, collaboration in order to address these issues. So now we have these policy gaps, which are found in many African countries. So the question should be for almost all of us is, in our respective countries, are these areas within dyslexia-related policies? Are there areas where no awareness, for instance, in the previous slide, we have integration into policies, teacher training programs, etc. So do we have lack of awareness, or do we have deficiencies in awareness, deficiencies in resources, deficiency in policies, legislations, or are there inconsistencies in the way the laws are passed and in the way things are practiced? So we need to look at these gaps. We also need to look at whether we have these issues are adequately addressed in our respective countries. So in the context of Africa, dyslexia-related policies or the gaps that are related to dyslexia may exist in areas which include identification and screening. We have a severe problem in many African countries related to identification of dyslexia, screening. So this assessment related challenge is a widespread challenge almost in every country in Africa, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. We don't have standardized identification
Hello, everyone. We are here again. Let's take a break of 3 minutes, and whilst we see if he'll come back. But like I said, we'll get him to record the whole session and send it to us. So we'll indulge you that when we share it, you take a chance and listen to it again. As you can see, he's touching on some very important topics over here. Yes, it's quite a pity, Anthony. I agree with you. So we'll get him to record again for us. But let's take a moment and shake ourselves, stretch ourselves whilst we get ourselves prepared.
I'm Hassan. I'm modern. I live by my own design. I'm Terry. I'm 11. I'm the sweetest kid I find. I'm big. Some of it's my whole time. Some great. One hand down to get inside me. I'm moving in my own time. Voice of the future, speak to me kindly. Ask for what I want. Somehow. Somehow. Yes, I am sexy.
Hello again.
Welcome back.
So I'll try to rush. Like you said, Rosie, I'm going to share the slides. So I'll just rush and go through all the slides before it gets disconnected again. So these are the policy gaps. These are some of the policy gaps we see in many African countries. Policy gaps related to identification and screening, related to dyslexia, specific curricula and resources, policy gaps related to teachers training, professional development, related to resource allocation, teacher certification, licensing, accessibility and accommodation, parent and community involvement. We don't really have policies catering or tailored around these issues. We have issues about research. We don't really have adequate data about for example even the prevalence of dyslexia in our communities in our respective countries. So we have issues around. These are some of the areas where we have a huge, massive policy gaps. So how do we address these policy gaps? We need a very concerted, a multifaceted approach involving collaboration, of course, among various stakeholders. So we once we identify these issues, what we want to do is we have to research and try to understand, analyze the context of the situation of dyslexia in the African context. We need to have policies developed, to revised. In cases where there are policies, we need to make sure that the policies address various aspects, dynamic, changing aspects of education and dyslexia within the education system. We need to have, of course, stakeholder engagements. We need to have capacity buildings, which Rosie and people like Rosie are doing through this fellowship program. So this is what we call capacity building. We need to also mobilize resources to be able to do impact, to be able to generate even a far-reaching, more meaningful impact. We need to monitor and evaluate our efforts. We also need to expand our awareness and advocacy activities. So the next point would be about identifying opportunities for policy advocacy. So once we know the agencies, we need to look for opportunities for policy advocacy. So advocating opportunities for policy is a combination of research. We need to research properly. We need to analyze the material, the information which is out there. We also need to sit down and strategically think. So what are the major or the main roads to advocacy opportunities? Which road would take us to which ways take us to opportunities or open up opportunities for us to engage in advocacy? Media outreach, obviously, media outreach and public relation. We need to have a very strong, sorry about that background. My dog is going crazy. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me? So the roads to advocacy opportunity, or the ways which open us, open the door, the windows of opportunity for us, are engaging with media. We need to be very good at public relations. We need to have public awareness campaigns. We need to share our personal stories, share testimonies, and show people that people with dyslexia actually exist. Because in some cases, people may assume that we are talking about some aliens, which do not actually happen in reality. But when we share personal stories, we know that personal stories, testimonials are very powerful, and it would provide us with opportunities for advocacy and engagement with these agencies. We also need to expand partnerships and colleges. We need to launch many educational workshops and trainings. We need to conduct policy advocacy and lobbying activities. We also need to have empowered parents. We need to empower parents. We need to establish support group for parents with parents of children with dyslexia. We need to have professional development for educators, including school teachers, teachers of teachers training college, etc. We also need to have to broaden our research activities. We need to have data. Without data, policymakers do not listen to us because we are just sharing our opinions. We need to substantiate our opinions with facts, data, and show them that these are actually problems in our society and they need to be addressed. So once those roads leads us opportunities for advocacy, what would be our opportunities to advocate or show or tools that would help us actually bring about the change that we need to that we would wish to bring in our communities? Education policy is a very good opportunity for our advocacy. We need to work hard to ensure that in our country we have an education policy. We have legislations and other legal documents which recognize dyslexia as a learning difference and provides directions for support provision. We also have opportunities in teacher training and professional development courses and then modules, etc. We need to advocate for dyslexia in these teacher training curricula, programs, etc. We also need to use parent education in support groups and programs, schemes, as an opportunity to advocate for people with dyslexia. We need to use awareness and outreach programs. We also need to use research and innovation as a means, as an opportunity to advocate for individuals having dyslexia. Employment and workplace accommodations, we also need to advocate for individuals with dyslexia in employment and workplaces, because those are also the areas where individuals with dyslexia need support in. Healthcare, access to service, community partnership, intersectional advocacy, all these are our opportunities to speak out for individuals with dyslexia. So these are mainly about policies and ways of engaging with agencies. The second session 2, is about building relationship with educational agencies, and it is rather shorter than the previous session. So it focuses mainly on how to build a relationship. So as fellows of Africa Dyslexia Organization, as fellows of dyslexia in Africa, you guys need to first do your homework very well. You have to study these agencies, these individuals, their background, what interests them, etc. We need to research about these agencies, the political interests, and the economical, the social interest that these people, these agencies have, so that we can tailor our agenda around their interest, so that they understand us, or they better accept us and better accept our cause. We also need to provide or add value to their understanding, to their goals, mission. We need to show them that our cause is a supplement to what they're doing. We also need to establish credibility, which is very important. We need to make them see that we are credible. We have a very good trust in our society. So establishing credibility, establishing trust is very, very important in building relationship with this agency. So we see common grounds with these people. When you go to a Ministry of Education, you tell them that you are talking about education because dyslexia affects education performance. When you go to Ministry of Health, you talk about you talk about issues related to health and well-being, because dyslexia affects even the mental health issue. You can bring all these things. So we need to know what to talk about when we go to some sectors within our government system, or in general, these agents. When you go to agencies, we also need to be very persistent and respectful. Of course, we need to engage through multiple channels. Sometimes we just give them videos containing brief policy briefs, or stories about dyslexia, what it is, etc. Sometimes we can write letters. Sometimes we approach them through influential people. So we need to engage them through various multiple channels. We need to, like we said earlier, we need to offer solutions, not just problems. We have to approach these agencies and stakeholders, policymakers, with evidence-based solutions. We have to assure.
All right. I have gotten a good feedback from some of you about when the network goes off like this for Dr. Abe, what you guys would like to hear. And it's not just only now, but I think I've also seen it in some of the feedback where A lot of you want to know information about ADO and how ADO started and if ADO is registered or not and all that. We will be doing that. I'm going to share all those stories with you for you to know how it started and everything. But for now, just to engage you until we see if he's going to come back and finish up before Justina take you to for breakout session. I just want you to know that ADO started in 2020 in the mid of the pandemic, and actually it will be 4 years old in June. So June will be 4 years old when ADO started. Yes, it's a registered entity. And so if you want to know, it's registered here in Ghana. We're trying to register it in other African countries as well. The name is trademarked. The logo is also trademarked already. We are also registering it in the US, and hopefully by next month, the organization will be fully registered in US as a 501c3 organization. And so this is what I have to share. I see Dr. Abe is back, and so I will let him take over from here. Dr. Abe, I see you have shared your screen, but it's blank. So if you can hear me, maybe you stop it and you reshare again. I don't think. So I don't think he can hear me at the moment. I think we still have some issue going on with him. So Justina, would you prepare to maybe hop on to take over? Okay, so whilst Justina is preparing to come on, please, if you have any questions, you can ask me, and I will be very happy to answer. I also noticed that a lot of you want to also have like a chat with me or something, but you normally send messages to the work phone to Leovia for her to answer you. So if you want to have my number, once we are finished, I'll put it in the chat and you can have my number. Once in a while, I do chat on the group.
Hello, everyone. Hi,
Okay,
Rosie, can you hear
back.
me?
Yes.
I'm left with just a couple of slides.
That's okay. You can go ahead.
Thank you. So just a couple of slides. I'm going to share the slide with our fellow advocates. So this is about effective communication and collaborating for systemic change. We have some tips and strategies and navigating through bureaucratic structures. So those are the 3 slides I'm left with. And thank you very much. I'm going to share I'm going to share the slide with them anyway. So I'm sorry again. Apologies for the internet connection. I hope they will read the slide and try to have a better understanding of what I was talking about.
And Dr. Abe, what I was also suggesting is, if it wouldn't be of a work to you, and we could, like, you could record this to us, like again to us, but not online like this. You record and share me the video so that we can have like a clear flow of beginning to the end, so we can upload that on the YouTube and share with them, because your session is so important, and we really want to get the concise flow throughout the presentation. So aside we getting the slide, I know it will be a little work, but if you have maybe an hour or an hour 20 minutes and you can record it for us, it will be great for us to have it later. Thank you.
I'll do that.
All right. So if you have any question, guys, you could put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand and ask as well because this is Q&A time. We have few minutes to let Justina come and take over. So let us know if you have any questions. If you don't have any questions, let's know in the chat also how important or insightful this session has been with Dr. Abe. Let's share some good words with him as well before he goes back to his duty whilst we continue our class. Stella says, thank you so much, Dr. Abe, for an insightful presentation. Prof. Franca says, thank you very much, Doc. You are highly appreciated for your good work. It's been great. Thank you, Dr. Abe, from Linda. And we have a hands up from Gabana. Gabana, Botswana. You can unmute and ask your question immediately.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. Let me know something here. From his presentation, I picked a number of points. Some of them I thought maybe, according to him or from his presentation, I think that sometimes this fellowship thing, it might involve a lot of traveling and maybe from one place to another. Some of us maybe are staying in rural areas or something like maybe far away from a number of people or a number of government or agency offices and stuff like that. Is there any financial assistance in this program that may allow us to travel a lot, or it's just some sort of volunteerism, trying to develop yourself, something like that? Thank you very much.
I think that question is probably directed to the ADO team and not Dr. Abe. These are all questions that we would address later, but so if you don't mind, because this is not pertaining to the topic, we will answer this later on. But I feel like also if you read the application before when you were applying, we explicitly made it clear of what this advocacy journey is about. There is no money involved. Nobody is actually sponsoring this program. This is a program that I felt if we have to wait for somebody to come and sponsor us to have something like this, it will never happen. This has never happened in the world ever since everybody has been raising awareness. So this is something that we thought that we need to do. We need to provide the knowledge to you. You don't need to travel far-fetched away. This is a grassroots advocacy program within your surroundings, the schools that you are. And I know you are currently working with Botswana Dyslexia Organization, the work that you do just to enhance the work that you're doing. And for somebody who is not already working in any dyslexia center or something, within your community, how can you raise awareness so that one child's life will be saved? That is the purpose of this advocacy. But you and I know that it's going to be more than that. And so these are all, we will have a session on it where we will address all these concerns and everything. But everything was spelled out correctly of what this advocacy journey is about. I hope I've answered. Thank you. Dr. Stella, please, you can unmute.
Hi, good day, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Abe, for that wonderful presentation. So something was reoccurring for me in the course of your presentation that was on research and the need to present evidence-based reports or research to agencies or agencies that would want to work with or collaborate with to create policy change. So one of the things you mentioned in the course of your presentation was that research about screening and identification could go a long way into achieving that. And you mentioned as well that most government agencies, they have their agenda. So naturally, you'd want to ensure that whatever it is you're presenting aligns with their agenda. Now, in my country, I stand to be corrected, but the last time I did a bit of research on issues on learning special needs, on special needs, what I think we have is a policy on special needs. So there's really no policy per se on dyslexia or specific learning difficulties. And then you mentioned also in the course of your presentation that some countries may have some policies as regards dyslexia. So I don't know if you have any country that currently have a policy on that. I know my country, to the best of my knowledge, I'm from Nigeria. I don't know to the best of my knowledge. I'm not quoting it's not obtainable, but to the best of my knowledge, last time I did a bit of research, our document that is a bit related to special needs is to dyslexia is special needs, and it's a bit generic. So do you have any country that currently has a policy on that? So that could help some of us that are thinking towards doing something on research and, approaching some of these institutions or agencies with something that is evidence-based. So if we can say, oh, this country is practicing this, and I have research on this, it could help. Because I know, like you rightly pointed out, most of these government agencies and parastatals, they're really not interested in all the things you're saying. They'll tell you, oh, there's this sector, and that group has this one has this one, this one has this one. So we need to really come up with something compelling and something that is really evidence-based. So that's one roundabout 20 questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stella. So I just got information from Dr. Abe that his network went out again, so he didn't hear your question. But what he asked me to do is to send him those questions, and then he can answer it and share it back to us later. In terms of research, so currently we're piloting a research in Ghana here to get the knowledge base of teachers and their understanding and the resources that are available for them to support dyslexic learners. So for the teachers that are here from Ghana, we'll be reaching out to send you the link so that you can help share it among your colleagues so that you can get. But once we're done with that, which will be in the few weeks, the same questions we're going to populate it because there's a number of us on this group who are interested in research, together with Dr. Abe, our head of research at Africa Dyslexia. We're going to do a holistic African research, and the research is going to be about two of them, one on parents and children, and then one on teacher training and resource availability. So once we are able to collate, if we are, say, 32 African countries here right now, if everybody is able to share the link for a lot of people in their countries to get it, and we have 32 representation, or just even 20 representation of African countries to enter the survey for us to be able to analyze, we will have something. I will share what is happening in Ghana right now. So Ghana have inclusive education policy, but the inclusive education policy, which was from 2016, really does not spell out anything when it comes to dyslexia. And so when we started our work in 2021 was when we raised the concern. And now the policy is in review, so we were able to send in our recommendation. We were part of the process for the inclusive education policy. And I'm sure that because Ghana is known to be one of the countries in Africa that is doing so well on inclusive education, so I am sure that for a country that they are saying is doing so well and is not there, then some African countries also is the same. So what we can do is to, like you said, you've looked at the policy and it's not there. So once a research like this come out, you can then take the report and then approach your Ministry of Education and try to raise the awareness to them and see what they can do. Ghana currently is drafting a disability bill, but in the bill, I have a copy, and the bill does not say anything when it comes to, actually, among the 23 disabilities that they are looking at, dyslexia is not part because they don't have data on it. So they are not recognizing dyslexia. And I'm challenging them right now that it is, even though we don't have data, when you go to the assessment center now, there's so many children who have been diagnosed as dyslexia. So what is that called? So this is how we have to start looking into things. It looks like I'm taking over the discussion from Justina. And so I will let Justina come in. But Anthony, I see your hand up. If it's brief, you can go ahead and unmute and say it. But I need to give it back to Justina. Okay. I think, Justina, you can take over because I think Anthony has gone up.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Anthony, whilst Justina is getting ready, you can ask your question.
Okay, can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it's not actually a question, it's just a comment from what you said. I'm here in South Africa, and in South Africa, we do have very good legislation, but the problem is the implementation. I have one of the reasons why I actually applied for this program is because of my son who is autistic. And we have very good programs on paper, but we are still struggling to even get the child into school. And we, the parents here, have banded together, and we are making a whole lot of noise. We've gone to the parliament and all the rest of things. You can't believe that even the children who are over 12 years are still at home. There is no school. There is no effort to even put them in school. But then if you go on paper, you will see that they have very good laws on inclusion and all that. So just as the prof was saying, doctor was saying from Nigeria as well, it's not only about not having, but even when you have, like as it is in South Africa, we are still struggling to get the children into school. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. I think this is a concern of like almost everywhere on the continent, and that's why we feel like such exercise is very important for us to do. And so I hope that as we all come together with a collective effort, we can start seeing changes. That's for me what I would have to say. Justina, please.
Good evening, everyone. I think this is the evening where tech is really giving us challenge. So welcome and thank you, Dr. Abby, for that presentation. It was really, really insightful and really prepared us for this next section. So we are going to recap some of the information, but we're really looking at doing some practical work now, applying the information that Dr. Abby has shared with us and looking at the context that we're working in as emerging advocates and how we want to deliver our advocacy role within our locality. So as Rosalind mentioned, the idea is that we work from the place that we're at we advocate within our immediate community. And then if the opportunity provides itself that we can extend that advocacy outside of that immediate community, then wonderful. But we want to have impact where we live and where we work and where we associate. So we're going to take a journey through the practicalities of developing and building relationships with educational agencies and what that looks like for us, and how we can really impact and shape educational policy from the grassroots activities that we engage in. So my screen will share shortly and you'll be able to see some of the information, but Dr. Abby went through the importance of effective communication and making sure that we're able to convey a message so that those that we are working with hear and understand and know what it is that we're doing. And he talked about how to build those relationships and what to do. So now we're going to look at collaboration. You know, how do we collaborate? How do we collaborate with others? And so we're going to have a couple of breakout sessions where we explored this. And hopefully you saw the slide in the group, the WhatsApp group, because I understand from the feedback that for some of you, you felt it'd be really helpful to know what is coming up in terms of breakout and what you're going to be asked to do. So shortly, you're going to be put into breakout rooms. And what you are being asked to do is you are going to share the steps and experiences of developing collaboration in your context. So what experience have you had in collaborating with others when it comes to dyslexia advocacy? And if you are someone where dyslexia advocacy is very, very new, and so you haven't had an opportunity to do that, think about another area within education or change that you have played a role in and you've collaborated with others. So in your group, I want you to share what those experiences are. I want you to look at what barriers you experience in that journey. And then I want you to think about the solutions that you'll be able to identify to overcome some of those barriers that you might have experienced. So is that clear for everyone? So in your breakout rooms, you are going to share the steps and experiences of developing collaborations in your context. So that is your country, your community, your organizational framework that you work in. What barriers did you experience when you tried to collaborate in your context? And what solutions can be applied to overcome those barriers? So if you haven't got access to the WhatsApp group, try and see if you can take a screenshot of the slide now, so that, because when you go into your breakout rooms, you're not going to be able to see this. So you are going to have 15 minutes to have that discussion. And really, what I really want to hear from you is, what did you do? What were the barriers? And how did you overcome them, or how could you overcome them? Is that clear? Any questions on that before we send you into your breakout rooms? Yeah. Okay, so you will have 15 minutes in your breakout room. So please think about how you allocate that time to ensure that you cover those 3 areas that I'm asking you about in that time, and then be ready to feed back to us when we come back. We really Okay, so you should now on the screen have a breakout room. Please join the breakout rooms now, and remember the 3 areas that you're going to be discussing I look forward to hearing the feedback on the other side. Hi, we still have some breakout rooms that doesn't have as many people in. So please, if you haven't joined the breakout room, please join. If you can't see which breakout room you should be in, please send us a message that we can assign you again. But if you can please join the breakout room now and join in the discussion. Thank you. Okay. Hi, welcome back, everyone. It was great popping into some of the rooms. I had some great discussions taking place. Because of time, I think what will be really helpful is if one person from each group can just put into the chat some of the key points that you got through in your group, the barriers and some of the solutions. I think that might be the most effective way so that we make sure we can cover everything that we have planned to share with you today. And if we get a chance at the end, then people can verbally share. So one of the things that hopefully came out from your discussion was identifying areas of challenge where there are barriers that need to be overcome. I heard a really good discussion around kind of policy, the fact that we have policies in place in many of our countries, but the implementation is what's missing. And when it comes to advocacy, it's really important to understand what are the areas that you really want to speak into as an advocate. So we call them pain points, the areas that are really challenging for the audience that we're delivering our information to. So the main pain points that we can see when it comes to dyslexia advocacy lies around policy, the fact that there's a lack of transparency in the process of policy making. Not everybody has access to it. There are stakeholders that might not get to feed into policy decision making. And having difficulty in understanding how decisions are made, how are policies created, what's the agenda behind it, how is it cascaded out, how is it informed by what's happening in the country. Another pain point is decision making. Decision making when it comes to policy development and implementation can be very slow. And there can be a lack of stakeholder engagement because often it can be something that's held just at ministerial level. So ministers and government officers come to a decision and come up with a policy, but don't always engage all the relevant stakeholders in it. And also resistance to change. Sometimes it's very hard to implement innovation and new things that are happening. Funding is a major pain point, and it's been raised already, even on our session today. Funding and the inequities in resource distribution. So some places have more resources than others. Cities are often better funded than rural areas. And so they play a really big part in the advocacy journey and how much impact can be had. The complexity of the area of development, the complexity around dyslexia advocacy, there are multiple layers, there are multiple parties involved. There's the student, the parents, the professionals, the school administrators and decision makers, community bodies, government agencies, government policies. There are so many different layers that feed into how we get to a place where policy and implementation are very evident. And it can be slow to adapt and implement change because human beings are naturally creatures of habit. So often, if this is what we've done and this is what we've always done, when you bring in new innovation, it can be very hard to receive and accept it. So those are some of the pain points that as advocates, you need to be aware of what is happening in your context around policy, who is making the decision, what funding is there or what funding is missing, and what are the complexities that you need to understand so that when you speak to individual people, you're able to show understanding, empathy, and context. Because to get people on board in your advocacy journey, you need to speak the same language as them. And you need to have a shared understanding as well as shared goal and shared ideology around how you reach the end outcome. So thinking about pain points. The summary of it is identify what the pain point is with the bureaucratic agency that you're going to be working with or engaging with. Provide a solution. So Dr. Abe talked about actually having a solution. If you can see what the problem is, it's very important that you don't approach an agency and just say, well, we have a problem. We have 5,000 children who possibly could be dyslexics and they haven't been assessed or diagnosed. Okay, so what do you want them to do with that? Have a solution ready. A solution could be, actually, can we have a program, an assessment program that is rolled out to schools to provide screening for children who potentially could be dyslexic or have other learning related disabilities? Anticipating an outcome. What's the win? There needs to be a win for whoever it is that you want to engage in this advocacy journey with you. What's going to be the result of the work that you're putting in? What's going to be the result of their engagement with you? Why should they listen to you? What will it benefit them to hear the message that you are going to be sharing? And then ensure that all of your research, your data, your solutions are shared with the correct audience. If you're having a really engaging discussion with an officer within a bureaucratic agency, and you have shared understanding, you're passionate, you both believe what you're speaking about needs to happen, you're both ready to take the journey, but that person has no decision-making power or no access to somebody who has decision-making power, then you've used all of that information for the wrong audience. It's really important that you understand that in order for change to happen and in order for decisions to be made and policy impact to be realized, you need to speak to decision makers. And once you're able to speak to decision makers or those that have the ears of decision makers, then you're able to take forward your advocacy journey in a lot more of a collaborative way. So Dr. Abbey went through talking about building relationships. So just to reinforce that and summarize it, because I think it's a really, really key area for you as emerging advocates. Identify the key stakeholders. Who are the policymakers? Who are the administrators? Who are the staff? Understand the system that you are operating in. What are the bureaucratic processes, the hierarchies, decision-making chains? Who makes the decisions? How do you get to them? Is it somewhere that you have to approach them in writing first? Is it somewhere that you can arrange a face-to-face meeting? Is it somewhere that you can network? Is it somewhere that you can organize some kind of roundtable discussion? Be very clear about the system that you want to feed into to advocate for the change for the dyslexic student and the dyslexic individual. Stay informed. Part of the relationship that you are going to build with decision makers who can impact policy change within the education field is staying informed, but keeping up to date with policy and practice changes. It allows for more effective advocating because you are then sharing information with them that will benefit them, will educate them, and will show them that there is a real need for the area that you are talking to them about. And most importantly, identify your allies. Which individuals within the bureaucracy agency share your advocacy goals? Which individuals can you collaborate with so that your message is amplified, so that your efforts are amplified? Who are those key individuals? Because that relationship and cultivating that relationship will bring you into spaces where you can speak to the power holders and the decision makers. So keeping that in mind, very much so. Your next breakout room, and we're going to do this really, really quickly because time really is not on our side, and we want to make sure that we honor the time that we said that we would deliver these sessions in. So you're going to have one more breakout room. And in this breakout room, what I want you to understand is your role as emerging advocates. So as an advocate, how will you approach the need for systemic change? So Dr. Abbey went through the systemic changes that are needed, where the areas are that we need to think about developing and adopting. So as advocates, thinking about all the information that you've received today, how will you approach the need for systemic change? What actions will you be taking? What actions do you think need to be taken? And what areas do you need to be tackled? And I'd like you to be able to feed back to the group from that discussion. You're literally going to get 5 minutes in this breakout room. So please keep your conversations concise, straight to the point. As advocates, how will you approach the need for systemic change? and I'll see you on the other side in 5 minutes. I'm going to try and break our ground. I'll let you give it 5 minutes. Can I just check? Yeah. You're not doing it. Hmm? They're not that good. Okay. Hello and welcome back. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you found those discussions really helpful. So we've been doing some reflection here around today's session, and we really acknowledge and want to apologize for the issues that we've experienced with the tech side. It's not been very helpful, and it's a real shame that it hasn't been able to flow in the way that we had planned it. One of the things that we are reflecting on and considering is how we can ensure that we get this information to you in a really clear and concise way so that you're able to not only absorb it, but reference back to it whenever you need to. And one of the suggestions that we're looking at is whether or not we re-deliver this session, Dr. Abe's session and my session. Because of the sake of time, there's a lot that you haven't been able to access, and the breakout rooms, you haven't had as much time as we would have liked you to have to really explore and to feedback. So we've just created a really quick poll just to get your feedback to see whether or not you would want us to rerun this session and mitigate against the tech issues so that you can get this information, because this is a very crucial element of your advocacy journey. And we really want to make sure that you have all the information and the strategies and the tools that you will need moving forward when you operate independently. So Rosalind is going to put up a poll now, and we would be really grateful if you could just quickly vote yes or no. Should we rerun this Module 4 course? It's not going to extend the 6 weeks. Yes. It's not going to extend the 6 weeks at all. We will find a way to fit it into our existing time frame. But we really feel like there's more that we wanted you to get from these 2 sessions that you haven't received. Thank you so much. 14 people have voted. If everyone can vote really quickly, and then give us an idea so that we'll go with the majority. So apologies, David. I just seen your message. Apologies. I'm not sure what happened there, but we'll try and make sure that that doesn't happen again. Okay. All right, we have 20 people that have voted. We've got another 12 or so people that haven't yet. If you wouldn't mind just quickly voting for us so that we can make sure that we've got a really representative view. Yeah. It's really helpful. Okay. So we have 19 people that have said yes and 1 person that has said no. So I think it's safe to be able to say that the majority are wanting the session to be repeated. We will make sure that tech won't be an issue for the next one so that you get the most out of that session. And we just really appreciate your patience with us today as we navigated these things. The internet is an issue that is a very prevalent one for us in Africa. And when we talk about inclusion, these are some of the things that we have to factor in. And these are some of the barriers as advocates that we will have. You know, technology will fail us. Not everybody's going to be able to access things in the same way. And so we need to think about how we adapt and adjust when we experience these barriers and how we overcome them. So we really appreciate your positiveness and your willingness to continue and engage. in the process. So we have 23 people have said yes, and one person has said no. Yeah. So I think that's decided. So we will communicate with you when that session will be re-delivered. Please, those of you in your groups with your discussions and your information, please hold on to that information. We want to hear the dialogue you had. We want to hear the plans that you have. So please, can you hold on to that? And when we have our next session, we will invite you to share from both breakout rooms. Hold on to the information that you gathered, and we'll invite you to share when we do the next session. It's now 6:07, and as I said earlier, we really want to honour our commitment to not overrunning and extending your evening any longer than we need to. So we are going to end the session now. Can I remind you, please, to complete the feedback forms and also to continue with your reflection journey. So what have you taken away from today's session? What would you have liked to hear more from? How are you going to implement this in the coming days? We really want to hear how you're getting on as well. So I'll hand over to Rosalind to finish, and thank you once again for your time and your patience today.
All right. Thank you so much for your time Thank you so much for your time today. And Justina have said everything. And so today, the password for today is, guess what's today's passphrases? It's going to be International Women's Day. That is the passphrase for today. And I'm typing it in the chat. Women's Day. That is the passphrase for today. Brian is laughing. Yes, it's obvious. So it's International Women's Day. Oh, I knew that was coming, Stella. You guessed it right. So thank you so much. We sincerely apologize for the technical glitches, but nobody have control over these things because we don't control it. But we'll make sure this session is re-delivered again. We'll send you the feedback form. Please make sure you still take yourself for it because we'll mark the class twice as well. Thank you and have a very good evening, and see you back here tomorrow. And please, the training that was shared for LinkedIn, if you're on LinkedIn, please try and take advantage over that. Please, 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 it will change something in you. So take care and have a blessed evening. Bye-bye.